Chapter 10. When Ethan's car pulled up the driveway, Karen ran out to meet him. As he stepped out, she threw herself into his arms, pressing her face against his. "Ethan, it was so frightening," she cried. He kept his arms wrapped around her trembling shoulders. She pressed her hot face against his. He said such horrible things to me," she told him. His arm around Karen's shoulder, Ethan led her into the house. Their shoes crunched over the hard snow. "It was probably a joke," Ethan said softly. I don't think so," she stammered. She clicked on the den light, and they sat close together on the couch. She shivered. The voice, it was just so terrifying. She pressed her forehead against his cheek. His long hair tickled her face. "It was a man?" Ethan asked softly. "I think so. I couldn't really tell," Karen replied. The voice was a whisper, very hoarse. "That's what made it so frightening. And then, the things he said." "What did he say?" Ethan demanded tenderly, soothingly stroking her dark hair. Karen shivered again. "He said such ugly things, Ethan. He said he was going to kill me. He said he knew where I lived, and he was going to kill me. He said that first he would describe how he planned to do it, and then he would do it." Ethan shook his head. He stroked her hair. I just kept screaming, "Who is this?" Karen continued, squeezing Ethan's hand. "I couldn't believe it was happening. I mean, you see stuff like this in movies and on TV, but I couldn't believe it was happening to me." "It's got to be a joke," Ethan said thoughtfully. "Some kind of sick joke." "Do you really think so?" Karen asked, holding on to him tightly. "He'll never call again," Ethan assured her. "You can't let it frighten you. Just forget about it. Really." Karen shuddered. "That weird hoarse voice, I'll never forget it. Never. Who would play a joke like that? What kind of sick person?" "Would you feel better if we called the police?" Ethan asked. Karen pulled away from him and sat up. "The police? Maybe we should." Ethan started to his feet. "I'll call them for you." Karen pulled him back down. "No, wait. They wouldn't do anything. What would they do? They'd just tell me it was someone's idea of a joke." "Probably," Ethan replied, frowning. "I hope it is a joke," Karen said, biting her lower lip. "I hope it is. It was so ugly, Ethan. So ugly. I'm still shaking." "It's okay. I'm here now," he said softly. "It's okay, Karen." He wrapped her in his arms. She leaned into him, raised her face to his, and kissed him until she stopped trembling. Monday. Dreary Monday, Karen thought unhappily. As she loaded her backpack to go home after school on Monday, Karen realized it had been a drearier day than most. She had seen Micah at least a dozen times, and neither of them had spoken to the other. Karen ate lunch by herself at a table at the corner of the lunchroom. Micah ate with some 10th grade girls Karen didn't know. All day, Karen had the feeling that kids were staring at her. In the hall, just before 5th period, a group of girls suddenly stopped talking as Karen passed. Were they talking about me? Karen wondered. Were they talking about me and Wendy? When the final bell rang, Karen gratefully hurried to her locker, eager to leave. Hoisting her backpack onto the shoulder of her down coat, she stepped out the front exit, into a dark afternoon. The sky cloud-laden and charcoal-colored, nearly as dark as night. Is it going to snow again? She wondered, lowering her head against the onrushing wind. She had crossed the street and trudged halfway down the next block, when she heard running footsteps behind her. Was someone coming after her? Before she could turn her head, 2 hands grabbed her roughly around the waist. "It's me, Karen," a hoarse voice whispered in her ear. "It's me." Chapter 11. "Let me go." Karen squirmed out of the grasping arms and spun around. "Adam," she cried. "Adam, you scared me to death." He laughed. He had a silent laugh that sounded more like coughing than laughing. His eyes flashed excitedly behind his glasses. He shook his head. "You're too easy," he said, giving her arm a playful shove. "Huh? What do you mean?" Karen demanded, waiting for her heartbeat to return to normal. "You're too easy to scare. No challenge," Adam said. "What does he mean by that?" Karen wondered. Adam picked up his brown leather briefcase. They started walking side by side. Adam had a red and white wool ski cap pulled down over his spiky rust-colored hair. He wore a khaki-colored coat that was too short for him. His work boots clomped noisily against the sidewalk. "What's with the briefcase?" Karen demanded. "Isn't that a little dorky? Why can't you carry a backpack like everyone else?" "I don't like to be like everyone else," he replied. "I like to be different. I can't be like everyone else. You know that, Karen." "But a briefcase?" Karen replied, staring at it. I like it, he replied, swinging it as he walked. Well, how's it going? Karen asked. Your class is okay? You meet anybody? Yeah, I guess I'm doing okay. They walked in silence for a while. I thought you were going to introduce me to your friend, Micah. I'm not talking to her, Karen told him, feeling her face grow hot. Oh, sorry, he replied. They stopped at an intersection. A station wagon filled with 4 enormous barking dogs rumbled past. Where do you think they're going? Karen wondered. Anywhere they want to, Adam joked. As they started across the street, his expression turned serious. You know, some kids think you pushed that girl Wendy down the stairs. I heard them talking today. I didn't push her, Karen replied quickly. She fell. Karen picked up her pace, keeping her eyes on the black, rolling clouds overhead. Wendy is telling everyone you pushed her, Adam reported. She's trying to get witnesses. You know, kids who saw it. She says she wants to sue you or have you arrested for assault or something. That's stupid, Karen replied angrily, making a disgusted face. There weren't any witnesses. That remark made Adam stop. He shifted the heavy briefcase to his other hand. How do you know there weren't any witnesses? There were only 2 other girls on the stairs, Karen told him, and they were looking the other way. Adam studied her suspiciously. And Wendy just fell? She slipped, I guess, Karen said uncomfortably. The wind swirled around them. The sky grew even darker. A car rolled slowly past, a red car. Karen turned, thinking it might be Ethan, but it wasn't. She's very angry at you, Adam reported, scratching his hair through the wool ski cap. You'd better stay away from her, he warned. No problem, Karen replied dryly. They started walking again, lowering their heads against the strong wind. Maybe Wendy made the phone call, she added in a low, thoughtful voice. What? What phone call? Adam asked. She told him about the hoarse, whispering voice that threatened to kill her. Weird, Adam muttered, shaking his head. Did you tell your mother? Not yet, Karen replied. Ethan said it was a joke, a one-time thing, and if it was just a one-time thing, I don't want to tell my mom and get her all worried. Yeah, right, Adam said thoughtfully, his eyes narrowed behind the black-rimmed glasses. It's a one-time thing, Karen. I'm sure it's a one-time thing. So, are we going to the new dance club Saturday night? Karen asked. She sat on the edge of her desk chair, cradling the phone between her chin and shoulder as she brushed clear polish onto her nails. It was a little after 7:30 Monday evening. A frozen rain pattered against the bedroom window behind her. On the other end of the phone line, Ethan hesitated. I don't know. I may have to work. Is he lying to me? Karen wondered. Why does he sound as if he's lying? Am I just being paranoid? You worked last Saturday, remember? She said crossly. I know, Ethan sighed. I have to talk to Tony, at the Sizzler. If I can trade shifts with Tony, then you and I can go out Saturday. He's lying, Karen decided. He's definitely lying. He plans to go out with Wendy on Saturday night, and he's making up a story so he doesn't have to tell me the truth. I really want to see you, she cooed. Last Saturday was so terrible. I know. I hope I can trade shifts, Ethan replied. But if Tony... He was interrupted by loud clicks. Oh, wait, that's the call waiting, Karen said, annoyed. Hold on. It might be my mom. She's working late. She clicked off. A few seconds later, she returned to him. Once again, her voice was shrill and frightened. Oh, Ethan, it was him again. Ethan groaned. Oh, no. He said he was going to cut my throat, Karen cried. Try to calm down, Ethan advised. Did you recognize the voice? Could you tell who it was? No, Karen told him. He said he was closer than I knew. He said he could get into my house any time he wanted. Then he said he was going to cut my throat. She let out a frightened sob. It was so horrible, Ethan, so horrible. I'll be right over, Ethan said. Please, hurry, she cried. He said he could get into my house any time he wanted. She hung up the phone. Staring down at her wet nails, she saw a dark shadow move in her mirror. She opened her mouth to scream, but no sound came out. And then the dark figure lurched across the room and grabbed her. Chapter 12. Gotcha, a voice shouted. Karen gasped in terror and spun around. Chris! He tossed back his head and opened his mouth in a fiendish horror movie laugh. Made you jump, he cried triumphantly. Chris, you jerk, Karen screeched. You're not funny. You're not funny. Leave me alone. Karen leaned over the desk and buried her face in her hands. Her trembling shoulders revealed to Chris that she was crying. Hey, what's wrong? He demanded. She felt his hand on her back. What's your problem, Karen? She kept her face buried in her hands, wishing he would just go away. I'm sorry, Chris apologized. It was just a joke. I'm sorry. What's wrong, Karen? Why are you so upset? Ethan arrived a few minutes later, his long hair disheveled, his features set in a worried frown. He tossed his jacket over the banister and followed Karen into the den. He was dressed all in black, a black sweater over black denim jeans. Whose funeral is this? Karen asked dryly. Don't be so morbid, Ethan replied. Chris was already in the den, staring out the window. He turned when Ethan entered and greeted him with a grunt. Ethan sat close beside Karen on the couch in the den. He kept clasping and unclasping his hands, cracking his knuckles. Chris paced back and forth across the small room, shaking his head, glancing at his sister. You should put cold water on your eyes, he advised her. They're all red and bloodshot. I'm okay, Karen replied quietly, raising her eyes to Ethan. Chris stopped in the middle of the room and leaned his weight on the back of the armchair. You look worse than Karen does, he told Ethan. You're as pale as a ghost. Wind rattled the den window behind her. Karen felt cold air on the back of her neck. She tapped her fingers nervously on the soft arm of the couch. I'm just worried about Karen, Ethan told Chris, leaning forward tensely. She told you about the calls, right? Chris nodded. What if this creep is serious? Ethan demanded. Maybe we should call the police, Karen said thoughtfully. Chris shook his head. They'll say it's a dumb joke, which it is. How do you know for sure? Ethan demanded. It's either a kid from school, Chris replied, or it's some nut who just stays home and makes threatening calls. We studied these guys in a psychology unit last semester. I read all about them. Karen let out an angry moan. Chris, this is really happening, she said sharply. It's not a case history in one of your psych textbooks. She tugged at the sides of her short brown hair. I can't believe this is happening to me. Another strong blast of wind outside made the window rattle again. Karen snuggled against the sleeve of Ethan's sweater. These guys never leave their houses, Chris continued, still leaning against the back of the chair. Most of them are afraid to go out and face the real world, so they stay inside and make sick phone calls. But why me? Karen cried shrilly. Why did he choose me? Are you sure it's a he? Ethan asked, raising his arm and draping it around her shoulders. Yeah. Could you recognize the voice? Chris demanded. Karen shook her head. I couldn't. Whoever it is just whispers. A very hoarse whisper, like someone with really bad laryngitis. Well, next time, just tell him to drop dead and then hang up, Chris advised. Look at you. He shook his head disapprovingly, his sandy-colored hair falling over his forehead. You're a total wreck. Chris is right, Ethan told her. You can't let yourself get all upset. Just tell the creep to drop dead. Karen started to reply, but the phone rang. Chapter 13. Karen grabbed the couch arm. She raised her eyes to Ethan. Ethan jumped to his feet, his hands balled into tight fists at his sides. Chris hesitated, staring at the phone on the desk against the window. It rang twice. Then he moved quickly across the room and picked up the receiver in the middle of the third ring. Hello, he shouted. Who is this? Her eyes on her brother, Karen crossed her arms over her chest as if shielding herself. Ethan stood tensely beside the couch, also staring at Chris. Oh, hi, Chris said. How's it going? His solemn expression gave way to a smile. Hold on. He pointed the receiver toward Ethan. It's for you. It's Jake. Huh? Jake? Ethan's expression revealed relief and surprise. He glanced back at Karen as he made his way to the phone. Now you've got me freaked. Ethan turned his back to Karen and began talking in low tones to Jake. You going to be okay? Chris asked with genuine concern. Yeah, I'm feeling a lot better, Karen replied, forcing a smile. Really, I'm sure you're right about the calls. Being harmless, I mean. Chris glanced at the desk clock. Mama's really putting in long hours, he muttered. Well, okay, I'm meeting some friends. Tell Mama I said hi. Tell her I'll be in pretty late. He gave her a little wave, glanced at Ethan, who still had his back turned, and disappeared from the room. Karen rubbed her sleeves with both hands. The cold air was seeping right through her sweater. This den has always been the coldest room in the house, she thought. She watched Ethan leaning over the desk. The light caught the silver ring in his ear and made it glow. She loved the way his hair flowed over his collar. She wanted to touch it, tug at it, pull it through her fingers. When Ethan finally hung up the phone, she motioned for him to come sit beside her on the couch. I can't, he said, lingering by the desk. I've got to go help Jake. He can't get the math. He begged me to come over and do it with him. Oh, Karen sighed. She couldn't conceal her disappointment. Ethan started to the door, then stopped. You'll be okay, won't you? Yeah, I guess, she replied uncertainly, her arms still wrapped around herself. She lowered them and climbed to her feet. You won't get any more weird calls tonight, Ethan told her. She followed him to the front door. Why don't you stay and help me with my math? She asked teasingly, giving him her most inviting smile. He smiled back at her. Because you don't need any help with your math, he replied. Jake is hopeless. Jake can't do long division. He picked up his jacket and pulled it on. Then he kissed her, a short peck. She reached to put her arms around his shoulders, but he turned and hurried out the door. Later, he called back to her as the storm door slammed behind him. What's your hurry, Ethan? Karen thought sadly, staring out into the darkness. Why are you in such a big rush to get away? She didn't have a chance to talk to Ethan again until Thursday after school. He always seemed to be hurrying somewhere, to basketball practice, to work, or to Jake's. Her heavy backpack slung over one shoulder of her down coat. Karen was on her way out of the building when she saw Ethan at his locker. Hey, hi! She called to him and went running over. What's up? He greeted her with a quick smile. You look great. What did you do to your hair? Washed it, Karen laughed. You're not going to basketball practice. Coach canceled it for today, Ethan replied. He had to go somewhere. Good, Karen declared. Then he can come home with me and we can study together. She brought her face close to his and whispered teasingly in his ear. Or not study. Can't, he replied flatly. They put me on the early shift tonight. At the Sizzler. I'm already late. He pulled his jacket out of the locker. A stack of books toppled out onto the floor. He bent down to retrieve them. You've been working a lot, Karen remarked, biting her lower lip. Yeah, we really need the money, Ethan replied, shoving books back onto the locker floor. Oh, I'm sorry. I've got bad news. I meant to call you last night. I couldn't switch shifts with Tony. She stared down at him. You mean? I can't take you to the dance club on Saturday night, he said, avoiding her eyes. I've got to work. Ethan, Karen cried emotionally, I'm really disappointed. Me too, he replied softly. He still refused to look her in the eye. Through gritted teeth, Karen asked Ethan to call her after work. He said he'd try. Feeling really annoyed, she offered a curt goodbye and made her way toward the front exit, taking long, angry strides. She passed a group of laughing kids, heading to play rehearsal in the auditorium. The building was quickly emptying out. 2 blue-uniformed cleaning people were dragging mops and buckets from a small supply closet. Karen turned another corner, headed down the hall, and nearly ran into Micah. Micah had her back to Karen. She was tugging at her tangles of blonde hair with one hand as she talked quietly to someone, standing very close. Jake! Karen was astonished to see Micah talking so cosily to Jake. Sure, Micah would flirt with almost any boy, but she never could stand Jake, Karen thought, hesitating in the middle of the hall. So how come they're suddenly such good pals? Weird. She watched them talking. Jake wore a black vest over a white t-shirt. Micah gave the vest a friendly pat. Weird. Very weird, Karen thought. Jake spotted Karen first. Hi, Karen, he called to her in his hoarse voice. Micah spun around. Karen? Her green eyes opened wide with surprise. Karen turned and started to jog in the other direction. Karen, come back, she heard Micah call after her. Karen, this is stupid. We've got to talk. Karen slowed her pace for a moment. Maybe I should stop and talk with her, she thought. But she realized she'd be too embarrassed now. She'd already started to run away. She turned the corner, ran past the 2 cleaners, who had already started to mop the floor, past the auditorium where loud piano music came drifting out. Around another corner, where she nearly collided with Wendy. Oh! Karen cried out, startled. She gazed past Wendy down the long corridor. Empty. No one else in sight. Wendy's eyes narrowed angrily. Something gleamed in Wendy's hand. She raised it toward Karen. Wendy, no! Karen shrieked. Put down the gun! Chapter 14. Karen's breath caught in her throat as Wendy lifted the gun higher. The gun shimmered in front of Wendy's olive green t-shirt. Wendy's straight red hair caught the light from the ceiling. Wendy, please, Karen pleaded. A strange smile formed on Wendy's face. Karen, what's your problem? She asked, her gray-green eyes narrowing as she studied Karen's alarmed face. You know I'm the prop master for Guys and Dolls? She gestured toward the auditorium with the pistol. They need this for the rehearsal? Karen could feel her face grow hot. She knew she was blushing. She shifted her backpack to her other shoulder. I thought, have you lost it totally? Wendy asked scornfully, tossing her straight red hair back with a flick of her head. She laughed. Did you think it was a real pistol? Did you really think I was going to shoot you? No, of course not, Karen lied. I just thought... Bang, bang, Wendy said, rolling her eyes. She pointed the prop gun at Karen's stomach. Karen stared at her awkwardly, waiting for her normal breathing to return, waiting for her heart to stop pounding. I've got to go. I'm late. The rehearsal already started, Wendy said, starting past Karen. You know, I didn't push you, Karen blurted out. She felt her face grow even hotter. I know, Wendy replied quickly, her face revealing no emotion at all. Huh? Her words caught Karen by surprise. I know, Wendy repeated. I was off balance. That stupid papier-mâché head started to slip out of my hands. I grabbed for it and fell. Oh, Karen replied, feeling foolish. Well, some kids were saying things. They said you thought I pushed you. She lowered her eyes for Wendy's stare. No, you didn't push me, Wendy said quietly. But you didn't stay to help me either? Her expression turned hard. Her eyes burned into Karen's. You didn't stay to see if I was okay? You didn't bother to come down the stairs? I saw you, just staring down at me from the top step. I know, Karen stammered, feeling her neck muscles tighten. I was upset. I was scared, so I ran. I just panicked, I guess. Wendy sniffed but didn't reply. I've got to go? She gestured again with the silvery pistol. I know about you and Ethan, Karen said, letting the words spill out in a rush. What? What are you talking about? Wendy asked scornfully. You can stop pretending, Karen said, staring down the long, empty hall. A jangle of piano music floated into the corridor as someone opened the auditorium door. Someone was pounding the keyboard crazily. Karen, I really don't know what you're talking about, Wendy said in a low, deliberate voice. It doesn't matter, Karen told her heatedly. It doesn't matter, because Ethan is back with me now. That's the truth. He isn't breaking up with me, Wendy. He isn't interested in you anymore. Wendy rolled her gray-green eyes again. Well, Karen, get a reality check, she exclaimed. Wendy, I'm serious, Karen insisted. I've got to go, Wendy said sharply. She brushed past Karen and disappeared around the corner. Karen stood staring down the empty hallway, Wendy's footsteps fading behind her. I confronted her, Karen thought. I said everything I wanted to say to her. So why don't I feel better about things? Why do I feel so much worse? She slumped into the blue Corolla and drove aimlessly around Thompson Falls for a while. Sometimes cruising around town helps to calm her, but not today. As Karen made her way through the winter-gray streets, she kept seeing Wendy's sneering face. I hate that smug look of hers, Karen thought. So smug and superior, like she knows a secret that I don't. A secret. A secret. Wendy stopped for a red light. She touched the wheel tensely with both hands, picturing Wendy, her red hair, her laughing green eyes, the stupid prop pistol in her hand. She deliberately scared me, Karen decided. I know she did. She was waiting for me. She heard me coming. She raised the pistol to give me a scare. Whoa, Karen murmured out loud, pushing her foot down on the gas as the light changed. She roared into the intersection. Whoa, Karen. Let's not become a total paranoid. Let's not completely lose it here, girl. She drove past the school for the second time. A few kids had been let out of the Guys and Dolls rehearsal and were huddled on the front walk. A guy Karen knew was trying to balance on the metal railing beside the walk, flailing his arms in the air, finally leaping to the ground in defeat. The back of Karen's neck ached. She rubbed it with one hand. The muscles were tight and hard. She turned onto Jackson and kept driving. Houses and yards rolled by in a gray blur. Karen rolled through a stop sign without noticing. She couldn't shake Wendy from her thoughts. Why did she laugh at me and tell me to get a reality check? Is it because she and Ethan really are seeing each other? No, Karen told herself. No, no, no. The Sizzler suddenly came into view on the right. Ethan is working in there, she realized. On an impulse, Karen turned the wheel sharply into the parking lot. I've got to talk to Ethan, she decided. Ethan will cheer me up. He didn't like for her to visit while he was working. The restaurant manager was really strict. She was always on Ethan's case for one thing or another. I'll only stay a few minutes, Karen decided, sliding the car into a parking space in front of the entrance. There were only 2 other cars in the lot. She climbed out and stretched, straining to see into the restaurant through the glass doors. The aroma of charcoaled steak floated out to greet her. Taking a deep breath, Karen pulled open the door and stepped inside. Bright white lights beamed down on the vast salad bar in the center of the room. At first she didn't see anyone in the restaurant at all. Then she spotted an elderly couple sitting across from each other in a blue vinyl booth across the far wall. A waitress walked past the salad bar, a tray of water glasses tinkling in her hands. Two white-uniformed food servers stood behind the long counter to Karen's right. It's so quiet in here, Karen thought, her eyes searching for Ethan. I guess it gets busier in a few hours at dinner time. I'll only stay a minute, she told herself. Just seeing Ethan will cheer me up. She took a few steps toward the rows of booths to get a better view. No Ethan. He must be in the kitchen, she decided. Would you like a table? A young man with spiky black hair stepped up to her with an eager smile. One for dinner? No, Karen said, shaking her head. I'm looking for someone. Ethan Parker. He works here? Ethan Parker? The young man scratched his spiky hair and looked around. Oh, wait, I just started. Here's the manager. He turned and called to a middle-aged woman at the end of the food counter. Doesn't Ethan Parker work here? He called. The woman came walking over, her eyes trained on Karen. Ethan? Are you looking for Ethan? She asked. Karen nodded. I just need to see him for a minute. Well, Ethan doesn't work here anymore, the woman told her. Huh? Karen gaped at her in surprise. Ethan quit 2 weeks ago, the woman said. Chapter 15. Karen nervously pulled the hairbrush through her hair. She tossed the brush down. It bounced off the dresser top and onto the floor, but she made no attempts to pick it up. I hate the way I look, she thought, frowning at herself in the oval dresser mirror. Why do I keep my hair so short and ugly? Why don't I color it so it isn't so lifeless and dull? Why don't I wear a little makeup so I'm not always so ghastly pale? Why can't I have big green eyes like Wendy? Wendy, Wendy, Wendy. Ethan and Wendy. The names repeated in Karen's mind like an endless, mind-numbing chant. Ethan quit his job at the restaurant so he could spend time with Wendy. He lied to me. He lied to me again and again. What am I going to do? She took a deep breath and held it. Calm down, Karen, she instructed herself. Calm, calm. Letting the air out in a whoosh, she strode quickly to her desk. She picked up the phone receiver and punched in Ethan's number. His mother picked up on the second ring. It's me, Karen. Can I speak to Ethan? We're just finishing dinner, Karen, Mrs. Parker replied. Can he call you later? No, Karen stammered. I'll only take a minute. A few seconds later, Ethan was on the other end. Hi, Karen said uncertainly. Now that she had him on the phone, she began to lose her nerve. She was no longer sure she wanted to confront him. What's up? Ethan asked brightly. Something about the cheeriness of his voice strengthened her resolve. Ethan, you lied to me, she thought, and now you sound so cheerful because you think you're getting away with it. Ethan, I went to the Sizzler after school. The words tumbled out in a hard, tight voice. I wanted to talk to you, but they told me you don't work there anymore. Silence. A long silence on Ethan's end. Then finally he found his voice. Yeah, I know I quit. I've been meaning to tell you. Well, why didn't you? Karen demanded shrilly. I thought you'd be upset. I didn't want you to think I was a quitter. Pretty lame, Karen thought, twisting the phone cord tightly around her wrist. Even I could come up with a better excuse than that. The job. It was interfering with my schoolwork. I was falling behind, Ethan continued. The more he talked, the less convincing he sounded. So my parents said I should quit. 2 weeks ago, Karen said through clenched teeth. Yeah, I've been meaning to tell you. Really, he insisted. That's why I haven't been able to go out with you as often, because I haven't had any money. Liar, liar, Karen thought bitterly. Well, I have a little money, she told him. Yeah, but if you're not working anymore, that means we can go out Saturday night, right? We can go to the dance club? Silence. Well, I'm not sure, he started, but they were interrupted by loud clicks. Oh, that's my call waiting, Karen moaned. Hold on, Ethan. Don't go away. Her voice trembled. I hope it isn't that creep again. He really scares me so much. Another click. Nearly a minute of silence. Then Karen returned to Ethan. Ethan, can you come over? She pleaded breathlessly. It was him. Karen, try not to get upset, Ethan urged. I can't help it, she cried. He said the most ugly things, Ethan. Please, hurry over. He said he can see me. He said he can see me whenever he wants. Karen, please, take a deep breath, Ethan instructed. He said he was coming to cut my throat, Karen cried frantically. He said he's coming soon. Karen, oh, please, Ethan, hurry over. You've got to help me. We've got to figure out who is doing this. We've got to stop him. It isn't a joke, Ethan. He really means it. I can tell. Karen uttered a tiny cry. Oh, Ethan, the doorbell. I just heard the doorbell.